The Florida Panthers had a lackluster performance coming out of Thanksgiving, but don't you worry, the coaching staff keeps this team accountable.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So, everybody, I hope you had a great holiday weekend as you guys celebrated Thanksgiving. A week of 2 days during the week where there was no NHL action, including Thanksgiving, where it's usually dominated by the NFL. But a weird one on the Tuesday, as there was not a lot of arena availability going on last week. But hey, once the NFL season is over, it's really full speed ahead as far as the NHL. A lot of national games coming up as well, where the schedule will be freeing up for a whole bunch of us to watch all sorts of hockey action, especially if you don't have ESPN Plus, which with the times you have to have it these days in order to catch every team and be caught up with the league as well. But as far as the Florida Panthers, as far as the coming out of Thanksgiving as well, and let's be honest, home teams during the Thanksgiving break and during a holiday break, you could argue that they have more of a disadvantage than teams who are traveling on the road. I mean, think about it. You're at your home. You are comfortable in your environment. You are possibly helping out your family more with Thanksgiving prep. And chances are you have more of that opportunity to overeat or overdrink, maybe in the case of some players, as it's a day for them to not even wear the skates. Even the Panthers originally had a practice scheduled on Thanksgiving Day at noon, but then after their performance against the Boston Bruins, they decided to scratch practice as well. They did not have a practice on Tuesday, neither, but they were off on Saturday, went back again on Sunday. So not a lot of hockey action as far as practice during this part of the year with the holiday as well. But going back to home teams and being at a disadvantage, the home teams went 2-13 on the day on Black Friday, but the rest of the week, home teams were 6-2, and then Sunday they were 4-1. So that first day outside of Thanksgiving is a little bit of a harder game to get out of, especially mentally if you are at home. And who knows how long some of these players were up, maybe washing some dishes from family members being visiting and all that stuff, whether these families come internationally, if some of these players even celebrate the holiday to begin with. But it really affected the Panthers play. I mean, you could see it on the ice. I mean, the lack of second chance opportunities in front of the net. I mean, especially in the third period. I mean, the Panthers, they had a good majority of the scoring opportunities in the first half of that third period, but I mean, it led to a lot of odd man rushes for the Winnipeg Jets as well on the night on Friday. So it was when you think about what Paul Maurice said after the game, especially where he said 16 out of the 19 guys were performing well on the night. And he actually said them by name, the guys who gave them the energy. Yona Gadjovic got them going. He was very physical. Also got another misconduct as well on the night. So we've seen a lot of that out of Gadjovic. Ryan Lomberg brought the energy for the Florida Panthers, and Sergei Bobrovsky. Those were the three guys on Friday who were stepping up and giving the team a chance to win and all. The second chance opportunities, once again, were not there. I mean, when you look at even the first goal by the Winnipeg Jets, what did they do? Win a faceoff, get the puck from the blue line to the net, and then Niederreiter is there to clean it up as well. And then as the Panthers were attacking, the Winnipeg Jets got out of the zone, and then what an incredible move by Nikolai Ehlers on Juvis Belinskis. And Juvis Belinskis hasn't played a lot lately, especially now with the defensive pieces from IR coming back. So this is a little bit of an opportunity for him to get the little bit of playing time going, especially because we don't know much of, well, we kind of have an indication of when Josh Mahura is going to come back, which we'll discuss in segment 2. But I mean, you think about for the Panthers, I mean, the legs were just not going under. They were just not for the Panthers, it was hard for them to get going as well. I mean, you have a shorthanded breakaway that just flat out missed the net. You see the team is being very passive as well. The power play is still struggling for this team, and you're wondering if the Florida Panthers are in creating more of a desperation to bring someone in like a Patrick Kane. I mean, 32 Thoughts this morning. Thankfully, I was able to listen to it before recording this show. Right now, we're recording this at 11:22 a.m. on a Monday. So what does that mean for their pursuit of Patrick Kane? Does that give them more of a reason to go after him? Right now, Elliot Friedman says that Detroit seems to be the front runner for the services of Patrick Kane. But do the Florida Panthers make that extra push to try to get him? That's really the big question when it comes to that as well. And going back to that, we're now at a point where you are at the 20 game mark. Your analytics as far as 5-on-5 goals for, at least expected goals for, they're in the middle of the pack. Last year, the Panthers were towards the tops of the league. So, and when the goals weren't going through, you were thinking, oh, maybe things will start to average out as the season comes around. But based on the eye test and the lack of second chance opportunities, yeah, these last 2 days for the Florida Panthers are going against Linus Ullmark, and who has a Vezina to his name, and Connor Hellebuyck, who had one a few years ago to his name as well. The resume that these two guys bring, if you're not creating the high danger chances, which the Florida Panthers, that according to Natural Stat Trick, 6 high danger chances on the game on Friday night, and that's not going to get it done to get it through for the Panthers, and forcing them to the perimeter, which was a great job by the Winnipeg Jets on the night, and it's just not going to get it done. And luckily, the Florida Panthers haven't had a 3-game losing streak all season, thankfully. Basically right after the first 2 games for the Florida Panthers against the Minnesota Wild and New Jersey Devils, the Florida Panthers have gotten their legs going. And I really don't have an issue with some of the things that the players said after the game. I mean, Barkov talking about how the team had too much turkey, and that didn't go well with a lot of people online and all. And I'm just thinking, when you put that more into context and the routine that home teams have versus what road teams do, as far as it's business as usual when you are on the road more often than it is at home. And not saying that these players are distracted. It just comes naturally when it comes to a holiday like this. So this is one of those games where, you don't put much stock into it when it comes to the season as well. So not much of a concern as far as the Florida Panthers coming out of this specific game. But as far as the overall product as well, when it comes to what we're seeing at 5-on-5 and the lack of scoring on the power play, when you're talking about overall, not just Friday, yes, that is starting to be a level of concern for yours truly. And I'm sure you guys are feeling the same way as well. Thankfully, the defense is there. They're still in the top 2 as far as analytically what they're doing at 5-on-5 defense. So that is as far as a foundation that continues to travel for the Florida Panthers. So in segment number 2, we are going to discuss more about the roster moves, where the Panthers stand cap-wise, and more about practice and what the players are saying after they return to the ice on Sunday. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Collective. And if you run a solo small business, you're an army of one, but you still need a CPA, bookkeeper, separate payroll solutions, and more. Let Collective take care of the paperwork while you take care of business. If you're running a business of one, you're wearing many hats in your day-to-day. With Collective, bookkeeping and accounting don't need to be one of them. You can start saving thousands of dollars and hours of your time by letting Collective handle your business paperwork. They say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But as a freelancer, there are always the dreaded paperwork that comes with it. With Collective, you can focus on your business of one while letting them focus on your paperwork. Collective is the number one financial solution for freelancers, contractors, and self-employed entrepreneurs that let you focus on your passion, not your paperwork. Let Collective handle all the paperwork you dread, like corporate formation and compliance, taxes, bookkeeping, accounting, and even payroll. The best part is a fraction of the cost of a CPA. Collective knows that if your business of one makes over $80,000 a year, you can find the most value from your services. Join the thousands of solopreneurs who have saved an average of $10K a year on taxes with their structure. Right now, Collective is offering a 1 month free of no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/lockedonNHL. Tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 value for free when you go to collective.com/lockedonNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's collective.com/lockedonNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. Locked On officially has its own 24-hour sports streaming channel. You can find that on Locked On Sports Today. So make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel, where you will get national shows like Locked On NHL and even some of the shows from our local experts in each market, including possibly the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listener of the day here on a Monday. And once again, programming note, we are going to be having 3 shows this week, as I am currently still on the road, traveling out of state. So a lot of the recording schedule will be out of whack. It might be at very random times throughout your week this week and different days. So we're going to be resuming to 5 days a week back starting next week. So thank you guys for your patience and all. So after their performance on Friday, which the last time I could put as far as the coaching staff not being pleased and running in a very intense practice afterwards, it takes me a little bit to, it flashes me back a little bit to the end of December in 2022. Panthers came off a very emotional win at home against Montreal. Second end of a back-to-back, they get shut out by the Carolina Hurricanes. Then they come back at home, usually a third day, you are off. No, Paul Maurice said no. This is an unacceptable performance. We cannot afford for this negative momentum to continue. And after day off on Saturday, Panthers returned to the ice on Sunday, and man, did they pick up the intensity. Man, they did. They worked on a lot. And thankfully, when it comes to getting a team ready and all, and the messaging that goes around, you can only imagine, it's said a little differently from what they say to the media than what they say to the locker room. But when you hear Paul Maurice say that 16 out of the 19 guys performed well, and he also includes himself, that's on him as well. So that is what you like to hear out of a coach. Again, I'm not gonna attack Alexander Barkov for what he said about having too much turkey, because again, that's a product of being at home. Yeah, you're professionals and all. You have a job to do when you go on the ice, but these guys have personal lives too. Let's not pretend that you listen to this, did you get up did you wake up not in a food coma on Black Friday? I'm sure a lot of you did. So if these are human beings too, as far as that. So I'm not gonna dig too deep into that. But think about it. You're preventing possibly something worse from happening when you put that much of an intense practice in the very next time you step on the ice after that performance. And when you think of the marathon of an 82 game season, you love it. You love it when you see that the very next practice a coach is holding the teams accountable. And basically, on talking about the upcoming road trip, you hear guys like Sam Bennett. He's talking about how it's a really good skate for the guys, so to not get too comfortable, and that's not the position that you want this team to be in. To be too comfortable, that this is just okay. The standard of, oh, coming off a holiday, that you just skate the way they did on Friday. No, the coaching staff gave them time too, when it came to resetting the mind too. And then, okay, it's go time. You're about to hit the road too in all three division games that mean something as far as getting some points, some swings as well. Yeah, did we go into this season expecting the Montreal Canadiens to contend for a playoff spot? No, we're still not at that point where Montreal is expected to compete. But this is still the early part of the season where teams are fighting for those spots as well. So, but this is its separation season as well. Yeah, we had the benchmark of American Thanksgiving, and more often, if you are in a playoff spot at that time, you're more than likely to get in. And that's something we discussed on Thursday's show. So thankfully, you've already created your sense of separation. But now this is the opportunity to create even more of it, where teams still have a little itty bit of hope as well. And that is the mindset where these teams who are lower than the Panthers have. But if you're the Panthers, you have to have the mindset of, it's just a little bump in the road. And at least two out of the three teams on this trip, you are expected to beat. It's not easy to go on the road after that lackluster of a performance on Friday. However, when you think of this Panthers team in the past, how they've gotten comfortable when going outside of their home environment, how it's done better for them. And this is why this is such a great opportunity when you think of the skate that they had on Sunday. And Etulis Turenin spoke about how you have to go in this with a playoff mindset as well. He spoke about it on Sunday as well. A lot of 4-point swings. And Maurice spoke having to deal with the last outing. It's a big playoff week as well for the team and all. So that is, the team's in a good place. I believe. I truly do. Some roster updates for the Panthers. Mike Reilly was placed on waivers on Saturday for the purposes of being sent down to Charlotte. That'll be great. Thinking at the time, that'll be great for the depth of the team if he's able to clear. And if he doesn't, then next time you bring a defenseman, you possibly can bring up a Lucas Carlson, maybe, or who's gotten plenty of chances in the AHL, but not in the NHL. Thankfully for Carlson, but as far as the depth for the Panthers, hurting a little bit with Mike Reilly clearing. He has been claimed by the New York Islanders. He is no longer part of the team. So with the Panthers, they get an open roster spot. They have about right now, as of this recording, 1:36 p.m. Right now, they have 1.4 million in cap space right now and an open roster spot, and that's with Ekblad back, Montour. So you survived a lot of the salary cap crunches, but right now you have an open spot on your roster. And Josh Mahura did return to practice on Sunday in a yellow non-contact jersey. So it's going to be a little bit until he's back. Unlikely to play on the road trip. Paul Maurice did speak about the possibility of him staying behind because of him getting an opportunity to skate more often, because you have the back-to-back. The second end of a back-to-back against Toronto is likely not going to be a day of skating. You know, they're currently having their morning skate right now, and so far no updates on who's starting in net. So Mike Reilly is no longer part of the organization, but thankfully for him with the New York Islanders, he's going to get a chance to play as well. So Paul Maurice spoke how Mike Reilly didn't do anything to lose his spot on the roster. It was just because of the logjam with the team that is going to hurt certain people. And again, it's great to have depth for this team. That's what we've been hunting for. Like, no pun intended, but this is what the Panthers have been wanting for so many years. And good teams will always lose a player when they are in their contention window, and these are the hard decisions that the team has to have whenever inserting someone back in, or trying to maybe say a prayer and hope that they clear through. And for the Panthers, they're gonna move on. They're gonna be just fine too. And right now, we still don't know what they're gonna do with that open roster spot. So it's time is ticking as far as what we'll know about the Patrick Kane front. As far as that, but we we definitely, there will be no shortage of topics if he ends up signing with the Florida Panthers and making his way to Sunrise to hopefully play for a contender, as he's looking for his fourth Stanley Cup. But in segment number 3, we're going to preview tonight's game between the Florida Panthers and the Ottawa Senators, as the Florida Panthers will be playing in their first of 3 starting tonight from the Canadian Tire Center. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper, and the NHL season has all sorts of possibilities. Matthew Tkachuk could score 50 goals. The Florida Panthers could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy contests. All you have to do is pick for studs like Matthew Tkachuk, Alexander Barkov being back, Connor McDavid, Alexander Ovechkin, or Sidney Crosby, if they will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Cats fans. You can win 100 times your money playing on daily fantasy with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail and locational availability. Back on this Monday, November 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen here on a Monday. And Florida Panthers, Ottawa Senators tonight from the Canadian Tire Center out in Canada. That's the location in which the Ottawa Senators play, outside of the city of Ottawa. And there's trouble in paradise, if you want it to call it paradise, because there's a lot of turmoil with the organization, especially from ownership change. Michael Andlauer is now the owner, his first season, inheriting a big mess with roster and relationship with the fan base. And the Florida Panthers were in a similar position back in like 2013, 2014 when Vinny Viola first took the reins. So there's a lot of growing pains with the new ownership with that's going on with the Ottawa Senators. And early on, Pierre Dorion got fired due to a lot of miscommunication with a trade that happened from former Panther Evgeny Dodonov when he was traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. His 16 team no trade list was not revealed to the Vegas Golden Knights when he was originally traded there. So when they tried to trade him to the Anaheim Ducks, which was now feels like forever ago, 2 trade deadlines ago, the Dodonov's camp said, "Hey, Anaheim's on our no trade list," and Vegas didn't get that from Ottawa. So Pierre Dorion was responsible for it. Him and his team cost the Ottawa Senators a first-round pick. So Michael Enlauer said that you're gone, and the GM was already on a short leash with a new ownership coming in and being there for a bit. DJ Smith is also on the hot seat, and fans of the Senators are yelling for him to be fired. Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux have to address the media and defend their coach and all, which I understand. Honestly, I'm with the players here of taking shots back at fans if they love playing for a guy, even though the results aren't there. Back your coach up. Good on the players for doing it, honestly. So there's a lot of trouble there for the Ottawa Senators, and a lot more trouble that they're having is their cap situation, which even before this was revealed publicly on Shane Pinto's gambling situation, signing Vladimir Tarasenko created a very difficult situation to sign Shane Pinto. Later as maybe the second week of the NHL season, it was announced that Shane Pinto would be suspended for the first half of the season due to gambling violations. And apparently Shane Pinto let someone in his home state of New York use his account and bet on certain games that he's not supposed to while he was in Ottawa. So they tracked down the location while he was in Ottawa. A person used his account in New York. So not necessarily responsible, not necessarily, but it's under his account, under his name. So a little bit at fault and very careless as far as using his account as far as that. Thomas Chabot is also hurt, so we will not see number one defenseman Thomas Chabot there as well for the Ottawa Senators tonight. And the top players, you got to stop the top players as always with this team. Brady Tkachuk, Timmy Stützle, Claude Giroux, they're all three of them are averaging around a point or over a point per game. Stützle and Giroux are the ones over, while Brady Tkachuk is just around a point per game as well. So a very top heavy squad as far as that. If you're able to stop them, you could find a way to win as well. 5-on-5 is basically what they do best, but surprisingly struggle on the power play, as they did not struggle on the power play last year. So that is taken a little bit of a step back this year, but basically every single category as well, they're middle of the pack for the Panthers and the Senators. Both of them are in the top 5 as far as shots for. So possession game is going to be key as well for this one. So also I do want to mention Matthew Joseph, a guy who was possibly in rumors to be traded to make space for Shane Pinto, is also performing at a really good clip so far this season. 4 goals and 11 assists on the season. So sometimes whenever a player's name is out there in the media as far as rumors of being traded, that's when they perform at its best. I mean, we've seen Matthew Joseph with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but now he's getting it done with the Ottawa Senators as well. Goaltending hasn't been the best situation. Jonas Korpisalo, the talk was, can he continue his play from when he was traded to the LA Kings last year from the Columbus Blue Jackets? Signed him to a pretty decent sized deal, 906 save percentage, 3.17. And Anton Forsberg is back after tearing both of his MCLs last year, 3.40, 850 save percentage, and a 3.51 GAA for Anton Forsberg, as he's made his return to the team. A few notes before we get out of here is Jameson Olive is tweeting that Josh Mahura is skating in a regular jersey, so he is in fact with the team. So after talking about how he might stay back, he is in fact with the team. So that is a live reaction out of finding out what the status of Josh Mahura. We still don't know at this moment in time who's going to be the starting goaltender for the Florida Panthers as well on a night like tonight. So, but I'm gonna guess on the front end of a back-to-back, this is a big month for the goaltenders as far as the Florida Panthers. I mean, we saw Stolarz start against the Ducks. We saw him start against the Blackhawks both times as well. So this is going to be a big month with a jam-packed jam-packed amount of games right before the Florida Panthers return home. And this is the start of your back-to-back. So big, can't emphasize enough as far as needing to get Stolarz going, assuming that he is going to be the starter, assuming that Sergei Bobrovsky will start on Tuesday against the Toronto Maple Leafs on the second end of a back-to-back as well. So this is, and thankfully, when the Florida Panthers, once again, they went on their California trip, we had Stolarz starting 2 of the 3. And Sergei Bobrovsky was able to get rest. The way that that Paul Maurice was able to strategize the goaltending reps as far as that was very key on that California trip. And this isn't going to be any different as far as how he structures everything as well. So thank you guys all for listening to today's show. Hopefully the Florida Panthers come out with a win in both of these games against the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs on what is their second set of back-to-backs this season. If we don't have a show on Tuesday morning, then we will be back with you guys on Wednesday for what's hopefully an edition of Winans Wednesday, as we'll recap both games. It's all going to depend on scheduling for this week. So thank you guys for being patient with me as far as getting something out there as far as recording. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to your team every day.